Why? Body fluids in art. Hello there, curious beasts. Your friend, Monsieur Fiend here.
This will be gross. This will be sticky. There will be
smatterings. And you probably have some questions. Long story short, I'm a weird guy. I like talking about weird subjects. So, to cut straight to the point, we have a very intense and symbolic relationship with our bodily fluids, all the way from saliva through to more diabolical leavings. They are part of us. They are us. They are produced from our body, and thus are extremely personal and private to us, but yet are so frequently used through media, art, and the written word to convey symbolism or to make you directly feel something, whether that be all the way from what most people are going to feel through this video, which is roast the fuck out, through to a whole range of dynamic, emotional representations. And who could ever forget Necro's song Piss off the album The Sexorcist?
I take a piss to remove poison from inside of me. You drink piss cause you're a poison to society.
But all of this is kind of a little bit representative for me and not as tangible as I would like to talk about today. So what about the times where bodily fluids actually flood their way into being a physical part of the art? The most basic version of artists using their body fluids in art is painters who will mix their blood or their semen or even their urine in with their paint. This, at its most simple, is a really effective way to, so to speak, put yourself into your art, having your cells and your matter in that artwork forever. Very similar to the way that, say, Kiss, when they released a string of comic books, pricked their fingers and dropped their blood into the red ink. There is always that desire as an artist where you want to convey the deepest part of yourself through your art. Kind of an extension of how a musician can say, I put my blood, sweat and tears into that. These painters quite literally do. But some artists, like Vinicius Quesada, take this to a whole new level. Vinicius's series of paintings, Blood Piss Blues, great fucking name, great fucking band name, uses exactly what you would expect it to as a medium, most notably his own blood and his own urine. And as a Brazilian street artist who has seen and dealt with brutal corruption and massive injustices in a country with some pretty significant class disparity and a lot of issues around poverty, he uses his own blood and thus his own body to signify and show the risk and bloodshed that his countrymen are experiencing. And I can't help but think that the use of his urine in this is a sort of, excuse the pun, pissed off example of his disdain for that corruption, like an angry protester pissing on a cop car. But this is definitely not the first time that bodily fluids have been used to describe angst and sacrifice. So without further ado, let's do a little bit of a deep dive into Piss Christ. In 1987, Andrea Serrano unveiled a photograph of Christ on the cross floating in a glass of his own piss. Fair enough, for obvious reasons. Most people had the immediate assumption that Piss Christ was a vicious and vile representation and critique of Catholicism and Christianity because it's their savior floating in a glass of piss. But Andreas, himself a lifelong Catholic and a follower of Christ, he used his own bodily fluids to basically represent and be compared to the blood that Jesus shed for his followers on the cross. Ties in directly with the idea of giving up part of your body for your art as a sacrifice. He also intended to use it to illustrate the ugliness of what crucifixion was, and that works pretty damn dramatically. He wanted to draw attention to this horrific, torturous, blood, shit and piss style end that someone would have if they were to be tortured to death or crucified. And so here Andreas is using that innate disgust we have of piss
golden showers
to highlight that ugliness and make us feel squeamish and ugly about Christ's crucifixion. The main purpose of using any body fluid in art is shock, to use that initial reel back reaction that people have from it to kind of damningly critique something. It's a really immediate way to draw a comparison between our irking disgust that we initially feel and the subject matter being put before us. Which is why So many people obviously viewed Piss Christ as such a vicious critique of Catholicism. And when I think about that initial visceral disgust reaction, one of the best examples I can think of is Ingrid Berthon-Moine's Red is the Color. 12 passport-style portraits of 12 women depicted wearing their menstrual blood as lipstick. Period blood and periods in general are a kind of particularly potent example because of their connection to femininity and the manner in which they are shunned and relegated to the halls of the taboo. That it's easier for a group of people to talk about a shit they took. Its use in this piece really draws a direct comparison between the hushed and squeamish attitudes towards an entirely natural part of a woman's life, menstruation and periods, to the intense and overbearing expectations that society, and particularly the beauty industry, places on women in the form of makeup. And so you can very easily see how someone who is, shall we say, offended by the issues that the beauty industry presents, the insecurities it installs particularly young women with, they could find that to be a disgusting way in which corporations are poking and prodding and negatively influencing society. And so the disgust that this individual is feeling here is mirrored by the disgust that we are meant to feel when seeing women with menstrual blood on their lips. But following through with this idea of using yourself and your fluids to be critical and enact disgust, we can follow through to one of my favorite examples, Piero Manzoni's The Artist's Shit. I fucking love this. But I inherently love anyone being a smartass and critiquing the things that they love. That's what my sad, pathetic ass does. Prior to and at the time of his very early death, Piero had begun basically selling off cans, supposedly stuffed with his shit. There are 90 of these. I don't know how he got them in there. I don't know the process. I think he kept that very secretive, and good for him. I kind of don't want to know. I think there are two overarching lenses through which we can look at this piece of shit. One way of looking at this is definitely that there is, yet again, that angle of your body as sacrifice, and so it's him literally giving physical parts of himself and his physical leavings to the art world, and then it being commodified and sold on, and third parties making a profit through that. Another way to look at this is that it's a big critique on the people who are waiting there, hanging there with their hands out. Gallery owners, critics, art collectors, wealthy people using art to dodge tax. A lot of these people may have zero interest in actually taking artistic value from the piece or what it represents. To them, it's a commodity. Piero, he may have looked upon them as thinking, well, they may as well be dealing in and looking at shit, real shit. And I think that's kind of brilliant. The reason I kind of lean towards that maybe being his mindset is because the anger it shows, just this angry, animalistic chimpanzee shitting. Oh, that's a fucking image, dude. But all in all, bodily fluids and your body itself being used in art, whether it be something like Millie Brown's Nexus Vomitus or Mark Quinn's Self, is going to end up having a very immediate and visceral feel to it. It's going to hit people on a kind of animalistic level before it hits anything else, and that's the intention. And so it can be used to some pretty fantastic effect. And this can be taken pretty far in the physical sacrifice kind of realm. Doesn't have to be just urine or blood or saliva or shit, piss and all the things, but you can look at pretty fucking extreme examples like Marco Evaristi, whom got liposuction and then used the fat to make 13 cans of meatballs for pasta sauce. That is some fucking Hannibal shit. Now, he did this to show the over-excessive way in which we use food within our society, that you can just keep eating. You live to eat. You consume. But the disgust will always hit home really hard, both on an animalistic level and an analytical artist kind of level. I'm saying a lot of words at the moment, and you know I film on a Saturday, so we know I'm wrapping up soon to go and drink and stare at the corner and blot out the memories of the amount of shit and piss and vomit that I've seen in the last 24 hours. So you made it this far. You made it to the end, you strong-willed, wondrous fiends. And hopefully you didn't need a bucket next to you to vomit into. But if you did, you can always, I guess, find a paintbrush and a canvas and go to fucking town. Brandon Valentine, the Pretentious Fiend, Nice color change. Like, share, subscribe. Do things.
PlayState me. Yes, praise at the god of the algorithm.
I'll catch you guys next time.